welcome back. We are your hosts, Ellie
and Dulce, and today we're talking about 10 different ways we self-sabotage and how to break those habits. So what is self-sabotaging? Self-sabotage is the behavior that creates problems in your day-to-day life and interferes with your long-term goals. It is the things that you do or don't do that prevent you from accomplishing those goals. So this is a episode that I think is very hand in hand with what we did last episode.
In last episode, we were talking about specifically how we stay motivated.
Right. And I feel like the 10 different ways that we self-sabotage, we touched base last episode because a lot of them have to do with staying motivated, you know, and being your best self and all of that. So without further ado, let's get started on the list. So number one way to self-sabotage is procrastination.
I think everybody in this planet is guilty of this first one.
Yes.
Myself included.
Same. Let's start this by saying that we are not perfect in this. We are saying all of this with a grain of salt, and also we're going through the learning process of fixing all of these problems ourselves.
Right. Because I think even though the people who have overcame this issue in terms of procrastination, I think they still do it, just they learn how to manage it a lot better, so they don't procrastinate for as long or as many times as someone would do it who still has that very prominent issue.
Right.
So it's not like it's something that once you learn it, you never do it ever again, and that's it. Like, I don't think that's how it's ever going to be.
Right.
Because I mean, we're only human, you know. I think that's just in our nature to do.
For sure. We'll mess up again.
Yeah.
And again.
Yeah. I think procrastination has become a habit for us that is very hard to let go.
Oh, for sure. And I think it goes as far back as high school or maybe even middle school. For me, it started in school, where I would have projects due, homework, studying for tests, and I would
until the very last minute.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's where it started for me, leaving everything to the very last minute. And because I learned how to do it to the very last minute and still got it done, I took that with me into adulthood, because I was like, well, I mean, as long as I get it done, right? Why does it matter if I procrastinate or not? It's getting done. But let's be honest, that is a form of self-sabotaging, because you're not allowing yourself to do it with time. You're always stressed. Like, it's just not good.
Right. And like, whereas if you do it with ahead of time, you have more time to learn properly without the added stress.
Right.
It started for me like around that same time too. And it also didn't help that like once I started doing it that way, where I would study the night before, or like sometimes I would be studying the class before. Okay. Like, if I felt like I didn't need to pay attention in that class and I knew I had an exam for like the next class that I was going to go to, I would be studying, or if not, I'd be doing the homework for that class. PTSD. I did that all the time. But I think the fact that it always worked out that way for us, we're like, oh, well, I can do it later, you know, I can do it at night. And then I think the added pressure or that stress of needing to do it kind of motivated you to do it, you know. It's like, well, right now I don't feel like doing it because I'm not stressed, but like once the day got closer or the time got closer, it's like, okay, now I need to do it because now I feel motivated, because I feel stressed.
Because you have to do it now. But no, procrastination is so bad. And like you said, I think it's a top one for all of us, because we love leaving things to the last minute. And maybe it starts off with the intention of not leaving it to the last minute, but that's what it becomes, because I'm sure everyone's familiar with this, where you say, okay, I'll do it, like, let's say it's 1 p.m. I'll do it at 2.
Oh my gosh.
And then 2 comes around and you missed it, and you look at the clock, it's 2:15. You're like, well, I missed it, let me try at 3. And then it keeps pushing. Next thing you know, it's 9 p.m. and you're like, well, now I gotta go to sleep, so mañana.
Yeah, I've done that so many times. I still do that.
Same. And I'm like, instead of missing just 15 minutes, I decide to lose a whole day.
Right. Like, why does that make sense? Like, it makes sense in the moment, but later on you're like, why the fuck did I do that?
Honestly, because like we've said, that's stress of it. And then for me, it's not just the stress, because it's a different kind of stress. It's not just like life stress. It's time crunch stress. Time crunch stress.
Girl said crime. What crimes are we?
Where did that come from?
Are my dreams coming into play for you right now?
That was so bad. But you know what I'm trying to say? And it's so funny because like my mom will call me and I answer a certain way and she's like, are you stressed? Because I have a very particular way about me when I am on a time crunch. Like, I'll get very irritated. I get mad. Like, everything just irritates me. Everything anybody tells me. Like, I'm just on edge.
Yeah.
And so it just ruins everything for me. Like, I'm stressed. My head hurts. Sometimes I get sweaty. Like, if I'm working, like, whatever it is. Like, when I used to work in school projects, so, like, I'd be holding a pencil or a pen or marker or whatever. My hands would be really sweaty. As crazy as it sounds, the next day a lot of hair would fall out. Like, my stress level would be on another level. But would I change? No. Yeah. It's not until now that I'm getting into adulthood. Well, I am in adulthood. Been in adulthood for a fat minute. But like, now that I'm getting older, becoming, I feel like a better person, a different person. Now it's like, okay, I need to change this because I leave a lot of important things to the last minute. And we've talked about this, and it's something that I am currently struggling with. And it's way more serious than just a project I didn't turn in, you know? But yeah, don't procrastinate.
Yeah, I feel you on that. I think lately I've been putting on a few things on hold. Oh, and here's the issue with me. Like, I'll create a to-do list for myself, right? I literally have one as we speak on my phone that I was doing for like this week, where I'll make a to-do list and then I get to a particular thing in my to-do list, but then I, like, for some reason it reminds me of something else that I want to do. So then I add it to my list. So I add, like, originally I'll have like 5 things and then I'll end up with like 20 things later on, right? And I end up doing all the other 15 things that I had added, and the first 5 things that I put on
like
there,
started with,
those are the very last things that I do. Like, why do I do that to myself? You know, so like, okay, hold up.
Examples.
Hold up. Wait. Okay. So on my to-do list, I had put, I need to scrub this chair that we have outside. 2 of them actually. Because I left my pumpkin on there and it kind of started.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
It looked like puke. I saw it and I thought someone had puked on it.
That's gross. I mean, both of them are gross. But yeah, I just need to scrub it because it was just the stain from the pumpkin.
Yeah.
And I need to shower my dog. And I need to clean my makeup brushes before Christmas. And I need to return some shoes that I got the wrong size for. I got an 8.5 instead of a 6.5.
Why? How?
Because I was irritated and I just kind of wanted to leave the store. And
it was a physical store?
Yeah.
But still, why? How? You didn't look at it? Or you just figured these will fit?
Originally, I had the right box. The right box shoe was a 6.5. But then I put it down to go look at this other shoe. And then I got frustrated because they didn't have the size that I was looking for in that one. And I had preferred those shoes. And so then I went back and I thought I had put it at the very top. And it wasn't that one, so then I grabbed the wrong box.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's accidental. Because the 6 from an 8, that's a big old jump.
Yeah. I know. My feet aren't that big. I have really small feet. And then I started making a grocery shopping list on top of this list. And it's just, I mean, it's helpful. I will say that. To have these lists. But I have way too many lists that sometimes I forget I have these lists. And if you don't remember that you have a list, well, that doesn't really help you. So
here's a technique. It doesn't work. Have a good day.
Don't use
That's it. Technique. See you in 2 weeks.
If you make one list, keep it at whatever you have it as. Don't start adding more things. But here's the thing. So I'll have the thing on my list where it's like you can check it off, right? On your notes. And I have, like, I don't know, it's a good feeling being able to check things off. So it's like, let's say I have those things on my list, right? But then I like go and do something else. I'm like, oh, let me add that to my list so I could check it off.
Girl.
I'm like, so I didn't do the original things, but I got all this other stuff done.
So it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important one, because we did tell you guys that we are going to kind of help you in breaking these habits. Mm-hmm. Personally, I don't think I have a very good piece of advice for procrastination, because like I said, it's something that I'm struggling with.
Same here. Clearly my advice, don't take my advice, because clearly it's not even working for me.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say is try to remember how you feel when you're stressed, when you do everything the last minute, and just hazlo porque lo tienes que hacer. Mm-hmm. Get your ass off that couch, because more than likely you're on the couch watching TV or scrolling through your phone. Yeah. Or laying down in bed doing those two things. Stop it. Get up and do it. Yeah. I know it's not very good advice, guys. We promise we have better for the other 9. But yeah, no, procrastination, I think it's a struggle for me.
For sure.
Like,
same here.
A present struggle. Mm-hmm. And like I said, we're not here to judge and tell you this is how you do it, this is how you fix it, because we kind of are going through the same thing.
Yep. Same. Yeah. But I think just a theory, okay, I'm not saying that this will work for you.
It's good in paper, on paper.
Okay, is maybe building habits to incorporate that I guess to-do list or whatever you have to get done, especially if it's like a recurring thing. Create like a habit, that way it's a habit for it, that way you do it more ahead of time. Mm-hmm. That even makes sense. I don't know, try to make a habit that includes whatever you're trying to do. I'm gonna try this out, then I'll let y'all know. How about that?
I would say the biggest problem with procrastinating, like I said in the beginning, is it's getting in the way of your goals. Mm-hmm. So the way we see it is, those long-term goals, whether it be you want a promotion, you want a bigger home, you want a better car, you want to start your business. Procrastination, in my opinion, is going to be probably number one barrier of you reaching those goals. Right. Because we're going to speak from experience. When you're trying to start your own business and you're putting everything to the last minute, not only are you going to be stressed, but it's not going to be to the best of your ability, because you're just trying to get it done. Right. When you take your time, when you make lists, when you make deadlines for yourself, to not be in that position, you're doing the best possible work that you can, because you're taking your time, you're doing your research, you're not stretching yourself out thin, because let's be real, it's still life. You have 1,000 things going on. Right. So it's not just that one thing you're trying to get done. It's that thing plus 1,000 more behind that. And when you don't give yourself that time, you don't allow yourself that time, you're going to get in your own way. That's why it's called self-sabotaging. And that's not good. Obviously, right. You're not reaching your full potential. You're not reaching your best self in whatever aspect that may be of life. That's why I think procrastination is like number one barrier.
For sure. And in terms of like business, for my experience anyway, I've realized that whenever I procrastinate, particularly for our shared business that we're trying to create together, if I procrastinate so much to it where I feel stressed out whenever I'm doing it towards the very, very end, like the day before or something like that, that stress doesn't allow me to enjoy doing it. So it's like I kind of don't even want to do it at that point. I'm doing it just because it needs to get done, not because I enjoy it. Whereas on the other times where I've literally taken one of our recent projects, I've been working on it for like a month already, I've actually really enjoyed doing it, and I'm getting it done ahead of time, ahead of like our due date for it. And I've actually enjoyed doing it, you know what I mean? And it's because I haven't had that stress put on myself, or I haven't put that stress on myself of like, oh my gosh, it's not done, I need to get it done,
it's due tomorrow. Yeah. And then especially when with everything being technological nowadays, whenever you have a project due, more than likely you're gonna have to email it, upload it, some sort of deal with technology, and we don't
want to forget the technical issues that we always experience because technology kind of hates us.
Yes. And let's be real, when you're already stressed, live at oh my gosh, I cannot speak. Live likes to add that like stress, that added stress. So like it likes to poke your buttons. Yeah. So it's like, oh, you're already late on the project and you're stressed. Here, let me turn off your Wi-Fi. Or let me have to update your computer. Like something's gonna happen.
That literally happened to those two things happened to me last time.
The
remember?
2 things, yeah.
Oh my gosh, annoying.
Yeah. So also make timelines and deadlines for yourself, anticipating something going wrong. Right. Meaning, give yourself an additional day or 2.
Mm-hmm. Give yourself like a grace period.
Right. So let's say you know for a fact it's due Friday. How about you give yourself the deadline of Wednesday? Mm-hmm. In case something goes off Wednesday, you can say, okay, let's put it down for a second, let's try again tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And hopefully it works out. But if for whatever reason it doesn't get resolved, you have an additional day, but the project is done. Mm-hmm. You're just anticipating something happening, because again, it's live, shit happens. Mm-hmm. La vida le gusta ser dura. Or maybe we like to make life harder for ourselves. The world may never know. One of the two.
Or maybe both.
But yeah, at the end of the day, don't get in your own way, especially of those long-term goals. Make yourself do it. So number 2 of self-sabotage is being a perfectionist. And I think that ties in because I think a lot of the reason why a lot of people procrastinate is because they're perfectionists and they're not to the level of quality they want to be at. And so they say, I'm not going to start yet because I'm not there yet.
I'm guilty of that for sure.
Same. Oh my God. And I think you can relate to this more than me because you're an artist.
Hopefully it's just water.
Se mojó.
Not in the way we want to. Sorry.
So like as an artist, and I feel like I've done this with art too, because there was a time where I wanted to pick up, painting, drawing. And a lot of us procrastinate that starting because let's say we try it out for a little bit and we're like, oh, we suck. Mm-hmm. Let me start once I get good. Yeah. Let me start once I make art like that person. Mm-hmm. Let me start once this eye looks super realistic.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
And that goes with anything. Like, let's say your life goal is, or one of your goals is to be a YouTuber. Because I know that a lot of people struggle with this. I've heard of so many people wanting to do YouTube videos, but don't because A, Y through Z. But anyway, so let's say you're wanting to be a YouTuber, but you're like, no, because I still can't get the angles right. No, because I don't have the right lighting. No, because blah, 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 blah. Like you're trying to be perfect. Right. You're trying to be a master at the craft that you haven't even started yet.
Yeah. Like you're trying to be a master of the craft of something you haven't mastered. You can't be a master of something you haven't mastered.
Right.
Right. So.
And I think a lot of people struggle with that because and I get it. Like you want to be your best self, especially if you're presenting it to other people. But if you're just starting it, you're not going to be that yet. You have to work up to it. Mm-hmm. And you can't allow yourself to not start because you're not there yet.
Just to tie this in, I actually saw this video recently that actually kind of hit for me at the right moment when I saw it. It was this video of this girl saying that it's okay to let other people see you do something new. That meaning if you're not good at it, it's okay for people to see you be not the master of whatever you're trying to do. It's okay to start something new. It's okay for people to see you start something new. Mm-hmm. Right? And I don't know, I just received that message at the right moment when I kind of needed it, and it was kind of just a reassurance for me. And again, it was for my art and everything. And apart from that, with that perfectionism, we don't want others to see us unless we're perfect at it. Mm-hmm. We don't want people to see our mistakes. And I've noticed that's why I've taken so many breaks from my art, because I'm not perfect at it. And some areas that I'm still trying to learn, specifically with my drawings of my eyes. The thing that I've been having a lot of trouble with is the eyelashes. drawing the eyelashes. To me, I feel like they look like freaking spider legs, which is throws off the rest of the picture for me. And I'm sure like nobody else notices it, but because I notice it, I know it's not the way that I see it in my head. Because as an artist, you kind of see it in your head before you actually do it. So whenever the image in real life doesn't match the image in my head, it's just like, well, shit, I fucked up. You know?
Right.
This isn't the way I wanted it for it to come out. And now I kind of don't even want to share it because it's not perfect, you know? And it's like, we're not meant to be perfect, and that's okay.
Because how do you get, not necessarily perfect, because I don't think anybody will ever really be perfect, but how do you master something? You have to keep practicing, you have to keep doing. And a lot of people don't even start. Like, you don't even take that first step. So how are you ever going to get to that point? Like, the people you compare, that's another thing. Like, that comparing to other people is detrimental. But how do you think they started?
Right.
They probably didn't start how they are now. You're seeing how they are now, but how long ago did they start? Those people that are super strong in whatever field they're doing have been at it for years and years. And let's say you've never even started a day. How are you gonna, that's not a fair comparison.
Right.
How about you compare yourself to someone who's never started before either, which you shouldn't do that either. You shouldn't compare yourself to anybody, but if you want to compare, do it on a good playing field. Don't compare yourself to a pro if you're barely starting, you know?
Going back into that comparison, I remember that I also used to compare my art to other people's art, and I till this day I still do, because I know that I could do so much. I can do better with my art. Like, I know where in the areas or what I can do to improve. The only thing is I haven't started trying to improve it.
Right.
But then I see other people's art, so then it kind of discourages me from doing it or even trying, because, oh, well, they already do it really good, like I can't get that good, you know, kind of thing. So it's like that comparison turns into like a negative self-talk, because
for sure,
I'm not perfect, and in my eyes, the way that they did it, it's perfect,
and you'll never be that.
Yeah. But in their eyes, they probably take their art piece and they're like, oh, it's average, you know. And they do the same thing with like other artists, right? You know, but except I don't know that, because I don't really talk to them, and they don't share that kind of thing, you know. But again, it's not the greatest thing to compare yourself. To be inspired, yes, you know, but don't look at other people's life or others' expertise. That didn't sound right.
Yeah, expertise.
Okay, that.
Don't look at other people's work.
Yeah, don't look at other people's work in order to try to compare yourself. To get ideas, to be encouraged, or to be influenced, great. Yeah, do it, but don't do it to compare yourself or to like downplay yourself.
Yeah, to put yourself down. Because I like the way you worded it. I'm never going to be like them. That's true. That holds so much truth. You're never going to be them, because they're them, you're you. You may be way better in your own way.
Yeah, and I think that itself holds its own power, because think about it this way. There's literally no other person who is like you. And people can try to copy you, but nobody can be you.
Right.
So you literally have something that nobody else has in the world. Nobody. So, and I think there's great power within that. You just need to acknowledge it and embrace it, you know, and carry it with you. I mean, how to do that, I'm still figuring that out myself. Okay,
we're still working at it.
We're still work in progress over here. We're not perfect, despite the topic being perfectionism. We're not perfect.
The summary of that one, I would say, just get started. Because perfectionism, you get in your own way, you get it in your own head, and it starts a lot of negative self-talk.
Right. And with that being said, like, once you start, and a few months, a few years down the road, you get to look at how you started, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, I've made this progress, and it's really encouraging to see. It's like, okay, I've made this much progress. Like, I've changed all this in this few months or these few years. Like, what can I do in the next 5 years?
Exactly.
You know, what can I do in the next 10? Like, just imagine how much better you can get if you keep going. And
that's the key factor. You got to keep going.
Yeah. Like, so sometimes I'll like look back at my sketchbooks. There was this one picture that this one eye that I drew from like 2012.
The obsession with eyes.
I know. I've always had an obsession with drawing eyes. I don't know. It's my favorite feature as of right now anyway, to draw.
She does some really dope eyes.
Thank you.
Insert picture of drawing here.
Yes. But like, it was my drawing of the eye from 2012 was like very two-dimensional. It was very flat. It had no texture. Like, there was no highlights, no shading. It was just straight lines, you know. But looking at the ones that I do now, it's like it has all of that. It has dimension. Yeah. It has I'm still working on the texture, but it has like dimension. It looks more like it's coming out of the picture.
It looks way more realistic.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's encouraging to see that progress.
Oh, for sure. Mm-hmm. And we did touch base again on that last episode as well. Keeping track of your progress is also very important, however that may look. A blog, pictures, videos. Mm-hmm. Keep track of whatever it is that you're doing so you can remind yourself what it looked like when you first started, because it is super motivational.
It is.
Because like you said, what I did this past few months, past few years, imagine what it would look like that amount of time later.
Right.
Like, it's probably gonna double in betterness.
Right. Because progress does not happen overnight. It takes hours and hours of practice over the course of like months, years, weeks. Like, it takes such a long time. It takes a lot of your time, but it's worth it for sure. Yeah. Moving on to the next topic.
So number 3 would be people pleasing.
Yeah.
We have touched base on this again. People pleasing is a way of self-sabotage because you're allowing other people's opinions of yourself, of your work, of your life to impact more than what you think of yourself.
So it's like you're putting other people's opinion on a high pedestal over your own life, and in other words, you're kind of giving them the power over your life.
Right.
And that power should be held in your hands.
For sure. Because I've known of a lot of people that do things or don't do things because of what others want for them, what others think of them. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, they regret it because they're not doing what makes them happy. They're doing it so that other person shuts up, so that other person accepts them, so that other person doesn't reject them, whatever that may look like. But ultimately, they want that other person to think high of them, right? And so they value that opinion way more than their own, even though they're super unhappy. Mm-hmm. And obviously, that is a way of self-sabotaging because you're not doing what's best for you. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, no one's going to look out for you like you do. And you shouldn't base your actions, especially really important actions, on what someone else thinks.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. There are certain people that you should take what they want into consideration, but ultimately you shouldn't decide based purely off of what they want. Mm-hmm. I think it makes a lot of people miserable, and it makes a lot of people resentful.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
You do it with the intention of, if I do this for you, like, we'll be better off. You'll love me. You won't leave me, whatever. But then you end up hating them because you're like, when I hate my life and I did it for you, you know, whether that be a parent, friend, family member, partner, like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
You may end up having really resentful feelings towards them, and it ruins the relationship anyway.
Right.
And you did it for nothing. Mm-hmm. Don't do that to yourself.
Yeah. And apart from that, I think that also comes out in work aspects as well, not just with interpersonal relationships. Mm-hmm. Or again, like, I can only speak from experience. Like, with my art, I know I also took a lot of breaks with my art, specifically because I was stressed out over, well, what do other people want to see? And where art is not meant for that, art is supposed to be an expression of yourself.
Right.
So I was too focused on what other people would want to see, what their opinions would be. And I was too afraid to put myself out there, my expressions out there, because I would basically fear them not accepting or rejecting my art, because
Right.
in itself, my art is an extension of me,
Of course.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, obviously rejection is not the greatest feeling. We try to avoid that at all costs. Hence comes in people pleasing. So you hold in, or I held in, a part of myself by not sharing or not making the art that I want to make, because I want to please everybody else with the art that I make. And there's this other thing that I've read where it says art is meant to disturb the comforted, and it's supposed to comfort the disturbed.
Mhm.
I think art can be very controversial,
Yep.
and because it can be perceived in so many ways, right? The artist could have made it with like such a great intention, but someone else perceives it as something so malicious or just straight up wrong or whatever, or offensive, you know.
Right.
And it has, the person who perceived it has a very different meaning to it, to the person who created it. And by all means, like, that's fine, like that's how art is supposed to be made, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
It's supposed to promote conversation.
yeah, but I don't know where I was going with that. That was just me rambling. I'm sorry.
No, you're good, because I agree,
Yeah.
And just to tie it in how that may be self-sabotaging is a lot of people may not start whatever it is that they're wanting to start because they see it as, well, no one wants to see this.
Yeah.
This is not what they want to see. I haven't seen it done before, so that means no one wants it.
Right.
And I think we've both struggled with that,
For sure.
with this podcast in itself sometimes, because when we first started, when we were youngins, I think a lot of the times when we would try to brainstorm on what to talk about, it was that.
Yeah.
What do people want to hear?
Yeah.
What do people need to hear?
Mhm.
And it shouldn't be that. It should be, what do we have to say? And if what we have to say is valuable, people will take it in.
Yeah.
If we're just saying what you want us to say, it may go viral, but not for the right reasons. That can look that way in any aspect of life. But again, we always bring it into what we're dealing with. So if you have thought about being a content creator, but you're struggling to actually start, and you're getting in your own way because, well, no one's going to want to see that.
Yeah.
Who wants to see that? I'm not this, I'm not that. Don't be a people pleaser in that way, because what are we doing it for? A bunch of strangers. Like, think about it. All these people on the internet, you don't know them.
Right.
Why are you holding their opinions so highly above yours?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, when you're choosing to do something, when you first initially have the idea to do it, you're not thinking about doing it for other people. You do it because it catches your interest, right? And then afterwards, that's whenever you're trying to make it about other people, and it's not. It's about you. It's what you want to do. It's what sparked your interest. So do it for you. Don't do it for other people.
Yeah, especially not in the pleasing sort of way.
Right.
To make someone happy. I mean, we do this with the intention of helping other people, but we don't do it, or at least now we don't go with the intention of, well, what do people want to hear?
Right.
It's what do we have to say about it? And like I said, that goes with any aspect in life. Don't get in your own way for other people, because at the end of the day, it's your happiness that's important. And if it makes you happy, someone's always gonna have something to say about anything you do. Like, someone, especially on the internet, someone's
for sure.
always gonna talk shit, and it's always people who are hiding behind that screen. So,
but it's okay, because it gets you more engagement, and more engagement means better algorithm that puts you out there for more people. So
a comment is a comment, a listen is a listen.
it's still a win.
Take that as a W. Yeah, because I do know, personally, I know a lot of people that want to be content creators, but this is a scary thing to do. A lot of people see it as superficial and easy, and it's a quick way to, some bucks. But it is a tough position to put yourself in when you pick this, because you're putting yourself out there, you're putting your not your life out there, but like your business,
Right.
your privacy. But if that's what you're choosing to do and it's what makes you happy, is what always has sparked your interest, do it. Don't worry about what people have to say, because like I said, people will talk mess no matter what.
Right. And regardless of with content creation, I know that you're putting a certain part of your life out there, but even with that, you kind of learn your way on how to build a privacy for yourself. Even though you're sharing a lot of your life, you'll learn how to build a privacy for the parts of your life that you don't want to share, and that's okay. You don't need to be sharing everything, like every single thing of your life, to everybody. You have a right to privacy,
Right.
and public figures or influencers or celebrities, like even celebrities have a private life. Even though they're very in the public eye, they have a private life. And it's the same thing as it would be if you're content creator and influencer, like that kind of thing. You kind of learn how to keep a private life, even though you're putting a lot of your life out there.
Right. And I think what we can tie in really good to, people pleasing, it would be our number 4 in our self-sabotage list, which is negative talk. Because when you're people pleasing, you are, like we said, trying to please them instead of yourself. And so you begin to negatively self-talk to yourself. Again, like what we just said, well, who wants to hear what I have to say?
Right.
Who wants to look at my face? Who wants to look at my art? Who wants to hear my music? Whatever it may be. You start doubting yourself, and inevitably, just, no, let's not do
say
that.
the first word. I'll say the inevitably.
I forgot what I said.
What were you trying to say?
Something about, anyway.
Something inevitably. Keep going.
You'll start... Oh my goodness. You'll start talking negatively about yourself. And I feel like that affects so many different aspects in your life. Then you start doubting yourself. You may have started with a little bit of confidence, but then now because you're trying to please others, because you're not perfect, you're going to start saying your worth is less than.
Right.
And obviously that's a big, huge way of self-sabotaging, because you're getting in your own way of your goals.
I think for negative self-talk, it kind of ties into some of the other ones. So like perfectionism, right? So whenever you're trying to start something new and you've never tried it, or you're a beginner, so you're not that great at it. And so you kind of get into like this lack mindset of, well, I'm not that as good as that person, or I'm not in this position yet, or I'm not as good as I can be later on, whatever the thing may be, right? And so that kind of turns into a negative self-talk, because you're focusing so much on what you don't have in that particular aspect of your life. Whereas, and I know that this is so hard, because I struggle with that too, with turning that negative self-talk into something either positive or you neutralize it. So rather than saying, oh, well, I'm not as good as that person, well, then turning it into something positive was like, well, I can be as good as that person down the line. I can get there. If I keep practicing, I can get there. And
so turning it like into inspiration.
Right. Yeah. And then, so obviously if you can't turn it into something positive, do it something that you can neutralize it as. But I think that doing that switch, flipping it around, can help manage that negative mindset. And I do speak that from experience, because I have done that, and if it happens every now and then where I still fall back to that negative mindset, because ultimately that's just a habit of mine. The negative self-talk, that's just a habit that's ingrained in me. So I fall back because that's my autopilot. If you must, right?
Yep.
And I have to actively be aware that I'm talking to myself that way, and I have to actively turn it into something positive and something neutral. It doesn't mean that I'm a failure just because I reverted back to it. It just means I'm a work in progress.
Right.
And I'm learning to turn the positive and the neutral stance into my habit, my new autopilot, if you must, But it's not going to happen overnight. It takes time.
For sure. And like you said, sometimes you're not even aware of it because it's just autopilot.
Right.
You may not even be thinking, I'm talking badly of myself, I'm speaking down on myself. It's just what you do.
Right.
And so you do have to do a lot of work as far as being connected with yourself and realizing what it is that you're doing. Because when you doubt yourself, when you speak down on yourself, you're not going to want to do whatever it is that your goal is, because you don't think you're worth it, because you don't think you're worthy. And that's just not right. Everyone is worthy of doing exactly what it is that makes them happy.
And if you're not self-aware that you're talking negative to yourself, then you're not even going to, you can't notice that you're negatively talking to yourself if you're not, like, if you're not self-aware about that part.
No, for sure, yeah.
You know? So if you don't even know that you have a problem, how do you know you have a problem that you need to fix?
Exactly. And I think a lot of people don't realize that because, sadly, they grew up that way. I know of a lot of people that talk really negatively about themselves because it's what their parents do. And it's what they grew up with. They grew up with their parents jokingly saying, like, oh, you're dumb, or you're dumb, you don't know what to do. Like, look at, but like they do it as a joke, you know?
Right.
So when they're doing it, because I've been around this type of situation, and I'm like bamboozled at someone's parent speaking to them that way, because I am so blessed. I would say this 1,000 times. So blessed with the family I have, you know, especially the older ones, my mom, my grandparents, which is the ones I grew up with. The amount of support and loving language that they gave me throughout my whole childhood was just amazing, you know? And I think that has helped tremendously into me being the adult that I am. Obviously, like, we are a product of our childhood,
right?
And it's the bad things that we have to be aware of and change. But because I didn't grow up in that kind of environment, obviously it wasn't normal. So when I first heard this parent talking like that to their kid, I was just kind of, well, I say the kid, but they were already, you know, 19 years old, but they were already used to this for 19 years old. So they just saw it as ha ha ha. And then the kid would turn around and like talk smack to the parent, and they're both like, ah ha ha. And I'm like, this is not normal.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, now I see why you're so negative and why you speak so negatively of yourself. And they don't realize they are. They're just like, oh haha, I'm dumb, but like playing around. And it's like, you know, if you say something often enough, you're gonna start believing it.
Right.
So if you're always like, oh haha, I'm dumb, you're gonna believe you're dumb, and you're gonna believe you're not capable of doing so many things because, oh, I'm dumb. Like, no, like words have power. We've said this so many times. If you continuously say, I'm not good enough, I'm dumb, no, I can't do that, your brain will turn that into your reality. No, you will not be able to do that. No, you will not be able to accomplish the big things you want to accomplish. You're gonna self-sabotage and get in your own way.
Right.
And so what I was trying to say is, some people may not be aware because that's just, unfortunately, the bad card you were dealt. And that's just, maybe your family is very negative. Maybe your parents always spoke down on you. And I'm sorry if you went through that, but you're an adult now. Take some responsibility. Say, okay, I'm an adult now. I can see what I'm doing. I no longer want to continue this toxic trait, bad behavior, and work on not doing it. And realize that it's not normal and it's not okay.
Right.
I don't know. I get so sad when I see parents talking to their kids like that.
It is sad.
Even if they're not kids, even if they're adults, like even if you're a full grown adult, if you're already 30 years old and your parents are still down, like talking down on you, like that makes me so sad. I don't know. I just feel very sad for kids that have to deal with that. Obviously when they're little, very sad, but more so when they're an adult, because again, they just see it as normal behavior. And a lot of the times they pass that down because it's all they know.
Right.
And so it becomes this generational curse that it has to stop somewhere.
Right.
Be the change.
Like you have the power to be the point where it stops. So, I mean, your past doesn't dictate your future. All it does is tell you where you've been.
Oh, for sure. And I think this is the perfect way to tie in number 5, which is negative environments, which is another way of self-sabotaging. Because even though I've been talking about, you know, childhood that you've been dealt with, once you become an adult, like I said, you're responsible for your own life. You are no longer a child that has to be there.
Right.
And there are people that surround themselves with nothing but negativity.
Right.
And like I said, words have power. If you hear something often enough, it's gonna become your reality.
Right. So ultimately, once you become an adult, it's not just about the people that you grew up with in your family, because now as an adult, you have the power to choose who you hang around with. You choose your own friends. So if you're choosing your friends who are constantly talking down on you, like you share your dreams with them, they're like, yeah, but you're never gonna get to do that, like that's just crazy, like you can't do that, whatever. Like even if they're saying it as a joke, it's still, those words still have power, and since those are the people that you're hanging out with, more than likely you're subconsciously you're going to be accepting that as your own truth. You're going to start believing in that.
For sure. And I think not dang, I had something in mind. Sorry, se me olvidó.
No, you're good. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe.
And also, if I know this sounds like super, super cliche whenever someone tells you, like, if you want to see your future, look at the people around you. But it's so true, bro. Like, it's so true.
What? Cliches have some truth to them?
Yeah. No, but like, seriously, if you really want to see what your future is going to look like, look at the people around you. If the people who around you are constantly just talking about, oh, they want to go out and party, and by all means, I'm not saying like people shouldn't go out and party, like, yeah, there's a balance in life, but that's all they want to do. They're talking down on their spouses, or talking bad about their spouses or their children, or they don't have any personal goals for themselves. That's how your future is going to look like as well, if that's all you're surrounding yourself with.
Right.
But whereas if you have friends who are striving to make to reach their goals, to make new goals, and yeah, they want to go out and party, yeah, but they have other things that they want to work towards, or something that they want to better in their personal relationships with their marriages or their spouses. That's the same thing. Or their partners, or maybe their children. Like, you'll start wanting the same things for yourself as well, because you're saying, oh, they can do it, it's possible. Like, I see that it's possible, so
right.
I can do that for myself too.
For sure.
So you'll start having some common goals where you can bounce off ideas as how to like improve yourself, but you'll have that kind of support to get you there.
Yeah, which is super important, because that negative environment may not always look like them talking down on you. It's them talking down on themselves,
right?
Them talking down on their spouse, like you just said, people around them. That's not necessarily you, but just people who are always negative about something. And it's literally that half empty glass type of people. It does have an effect on you, because it's like having someone who is always saying, well, all I know is struggle, I'm never gonna get out this struggle, this is all we know, living paycheck to paycheck, as opposed to someone being like, we can do it, we can get out of this. That makes a big difference.
It sure does.
And so don't self-sabotage, don't get in your own way by allowing those people to be in your life. And I know some of those may not be so easy to just kind of drop out of your life,
for sure,
but limit the time you spend with them, limit the conversations you have with them, because they're feeding that into your life, and if they're negative, it's gonna bring back negativity to your life.
Right. Something that I've actually also learned recently, because I know it's super hard to let go of relationships that are kind of negative in that way, that, or inevitably you like, there's no way like you can actually like let it go, and like that's okay. And again, if you can't limit it, what I've also been doing, or I've been trying to do, is to encourage them to also have a positive mindset. So I'll share my positive mindset, hoping that it'll shed some sort of light for them, and obviously it's not up to me whether they take that light or not.
Right.
That's up to them whether they choose to do that or not. Right. But I want to at least be able to provide some sort of light that they've never seen maybe before, and be like, oh, well, she's thinking about it this way, or she came up with this idea, or she's doing this. Maybe I can start doing it this way. Like, bounce off ideas, or be see some inspiration out of me.
You're taking charge in the narrative.
Right. Take charge of the narrative with that friend or with that person. If you can't let them go, or it's hard for you to like let them go,
Right.
and try to change that narrative with them.
Right. Because not to say those people are bad.
Right.
Because those people may be really good people. They're just very negative, and maybe you don't want them to leave your life. You just don't want that negativity. So that's when you can take charge. And maybe when you see them starting that negative conversation, that's when you take charge and not necessarily change the subject, but just change the narrative. You know, like, I don't know, if they say, you know, I'm always broke, this month has been so hard. Okay, but you're healthy. What can we do to make it better? Things like that.
Right.
Because, you know, obviously every relationship is different. So you know what works with that person, but change it to where they'll see it in a different light.
Right.
And a lot of these people are adults and they've been negative for a long time. So you also have to be patient if it is that you're wanting to keep them in your life and you're wanting to change that narrative. You also have to be patient and realize that it's all they know. Yeah. And so it takes a while to rewire that kind of mindset. Right. Because it is tough to go from negative to a positive. It's a very tough thing to do, especially if like the negativity is about life, financials, and they're in that situation currently. It's so hard to change that mindset because it's what you're living.
For sure. And especially if you yourself came from a negative mindset and turned it into something more positive for yourself, then you understand the struggle of even starting that journey.
For sure.
So just look back and remember, like, how long did it take you from get to that point to now, and have that same grace for them. You know, have that same patience with them. Like, I know that it was super hard for you to have patience with yourself during that time, but you know how long it took you. You know how much hard it took you to do that. So now it can be easier for you to have that patience with that person while they overcome that obstacle for themselves.
For sure. And compassion. Patience. And I think compassion, like, we have to be compassionate of one another and also realize that could come from an extended amount of struggle and negativity for themselves. And so it's like, oh, you know, just be compassionate to people and realize it's not their fault. A lot of negative talk, self-negative talk, and negative environments don't just form out of nowhere. They come from
past experiences.
Right. And a lot of them were passed down by previous generations and parents. And back then it wasn't with the knowledge that we have now, with the accessibility that we have now to better ourselves. Right. That's what I've had to tell myself a lot, you know, whenever we talk a lot about our parents and our traditions within our culture that are very toxic. It's, well, that's all they knew. They come from a lot of struggle. They tried their best. I'm sure they broke some things that they saw as super toxic and tried to do better for their family, but certain things are still passed down. So it's trying to see it with a lens of compassion, that it's just the card that we're dealt. And yes, we're adults, like, we can choose better, but sometimes people don't know what's better, or they don't know that they're at fault. They don't know that they're in the wrong. They don't know that they're negative.
They don't know that there is such thing as a better. They just know that this is the only thing that exists.
Right. Like, that's life, period. And I think with that, it ties with number 6, which is external validation. So with external validation, it basically goes hand in hand, honestly, with everything. So I feel like our list is a web. Right. Everything is connected to something else one way or another, but you can take them out individually. However, one affects the other, a little domino effect, you know? Right. So it is a lot to think about and to have in mind and to fix. So if you have heard us talk about these self-sabotages and you have noticed that you do a lot of them in your life, don't be discouraged, because they are very well connected with one another. So like I said, domino effect, you do one, it's probably going to affect the other. But, you know, with external validation, I feel like it goes a lot hand in hand with people pleasing.
Right, for sure.
Because you're expecting those around you to be pleased by what you're doing, what you're making.
Right. And the things that you do, you choose to do the things that you do with the intention of getting validation from somebody else, or the acceptance of somebody else. Right. And if you think that whatever you're going to do or whatever you're going to say is not going to gain the acceptance of or validation of someone else, it'll give you then the rejection, again, for people pleasing, then you're probably not going to do it.
Right. Yeah. So obviously that is very self-sabotaging because you're not putting yourself first. And I do understand there's some instances where unfortunately we do need that external validation. Like, let's say, you're working on a project at your company and you have a project manager you have to run things by, and they're not liking your ideas, they're turning everything down. You are going to have to create your content, your plans with their liking in mind, and that's a little different. However, I feel like if you are in a place where you're a really creative person and you really stand behind your ideas, and there's a person on top of you in management and they're always knocking you down, that could be also a very negative environment for you, and it could be a possibility to look for something else. Right. Someone that values your opinions, that values your creations, your creativity, because I do feel like that also may come from a place of jealousy sometimes. Mm-hmm. There are people that are in places of power that get jealous of people who are under them, quote unquote, because that person is better at what they do than said person in management. Right. So you also have to
differentiate.
Yes. I don't know why I always try to say that word and I can never say it.
Today, lately, have you noticed the words I can't say, you're able to say them, and the words you can't say, I'm able to say them?
We complete each other.
We do.
Yin and yang.
We finish each other's sentences.
Aw, true love. But yes, so external validation. Any thoughts, Ellie?
It's similar to people pleasing, but then again, it also goes back to just in general, like our childhood. Like from the very beginning, we want somebody's approval, validation, like whether that be, I think particularly your parents, your mom, your dad. If you have siblings, you want their approval, your immediate family kind of thing, because those are the people that you spend most of your time with. So once you start feeling rejected by them, you kind of subconsciously you start taking notice of what is being rejected, what is being accepted, and you carry that on with you until your adult years, right? So once you start interacting with the rest of the world, you use those same cues that you received whenever you were little, and you learned back then when you were 3 that you got rejected for saying this, so you're not going to say that now. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, times change and people change, and not just that, the people that you're surrounded by change. So the people that you're surrounded by whenever you were 3 are not the same people that you're surrounded with now in your adulthood. Right. So you have to try it all over again, because the people that you're surrounded by now may validate or may accept whatever was rejected whenever you were 3. Mm-hmm. And I know that even though we want that validation or that acceptance from somebody else, we also have to take account for the fact that if we're looking for validation from somebody else, it's because we've also never given ourselves that validation either. And that's the one that matters the most. So if we continue reaching for validation from somebody else and we continue to get it, we will never be fulfilled either way unless we validate ourselves first. I think that's just what I've learned from my personal experience, where I was looking for other people's validations. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I realized that I never felt validated by anybody else because I never validated myself. That's kind of where it changed for me. Mm-hmm. And I stopped wanting validation from other people. And by not wanting other people's validation, I kind of got their validation.
Right.
And by the time that happened, I was just like, well, I kind of don't even want it anymore. It was just like there for me. Like mm-hmm. it was there, but I just didn't make a big deal out of it anymore. Like I think back then, had it happened for me where I got that validation whenever I mostly wanted it from them, I would have been so rejoiced, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes,
Yeah.
But now that they did it, I was just like, oh yeah, cool, thanks, because I've already given myself that validation that I wanted or that I was looking for at that time. Mm-hmm. So I think once you learn how to place your own validation on a higher pedestal, validation from everybody else just doesn't seem so grandiose as it used to sound. Mm-hmm. But, and not to say that everybody else's validation is not worth it. It's just that
it's not necessary.
It's not necessary.
And I think it's also a thing we struggle within nuestra cultura mexicana, where we just always want our parents' validation.
For sure.
And again, I was blessed with a family who has always been supportive, and they have always seen, you know, when I worked hard. But you hear a lot of Mexican parents not acknowledge what their kids are doing and giving them that praise. So I think it is something that our people struggle with a lot, you know, in our culture, that we look for that external validation and we're constantly, you know, searching for it. And once we become adults and we move out, it turns from our needing our parents' validation to either a friend or like a partner.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not validating us, then we're feeling like a failure,
right?
Or we're feeling like we're not doing enough, or we're not doing the right thing, like we're just not living right, because they're not giving us that, because a lot of people grew up that way.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like you're stuck on that vicious cycle of needing validation from somebody. If it's not your parents, it's a friend, it's a spouse, it's your child, it could be literally anybody, but you just carry that same cycle that you didn't complete with one person onto the next person until you feel the need that you've completed that cycle, but not realizing that you need to complete that cycle with yourself.
Of course. And just like with everything that we've said, that's very harmful to you and your goals, because you're allowing all these extra factors, outside factors, to determine your worth, to determine what you should do, if you should follow your dreams. And again, the only thing that matters at the end of the day is your own emotion towards it. And if it makes you happy, as long as you're not hurting anybody, that's all you need, you know, your own.
Because like, let's say too that you finally got that validation that you wanted from that person, but the way that you got that validation from them, now that you have it, you're not exactly happy with what you're doing, but you got that validation. So now you have that validation, but now by having it, you kind of just feel empty because you don't have what you actually wanted, which is what you've been trying to do. You let that go for the exchange of getting that validation.
Right.
And I don't know. It's just an empty feeling.
For sure. It reminded me of the Infinity War, or was it Endgame scene, where baby Gamora is like, what did it cost? And Thanos is like, everything. No, but at what cost, or something like that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He's like, it cost me everything. Sorry, it's what it reminded me of. But
that was Endgame, because that was after he killed Gamora.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Dang, you know more than me, and I've watched it how many times?
I was playing it back in my head. Yeah, because that's what she was referencing, at what cost, and he said everything, because literally she was everything to him, because he, spoiler alert to people who haven't watched it.
Girl, if you haven't seen it right
Thanos kills Gamora.
Spoiler alert. Like 5 years later.
I know.
Well, exaggerating. But okay, so moving on to number 7. It is not so connected like the previous. They're above number. But number 7 is goals without a plan to action and no organization.
I think that one actually falls more with procrastination, because you can also procrastinate on not making a plan, right? So because it's happened to, like, I've done this so many times where I'm like, yeah, I want to do this and this and that, but I don't actually make a plan for it, or I don't sit down and make a plan for it. Either one, because I don't think about making a plan, or two, I'm like, yeah, I'll do it later.
Right.
Hence the procrastination. And I never really get to it. So because I never really get to the actual plan or the planning part of it, I don't actually act on it because I don't plan it.
Right.
And I think that planning in itself kind of makes the goal more attainable.
Oh, for sure,
because it shows you the steps, right? The step to get there.
Right.
And because you haven't sat down and made that plan or written down that plan, it's like you can't see the steps. So it's like you feel like you have to make a leap rather than walking up the stairs. You know, it's like you're looking from here like 6 feet tall or 10 feet tall. I don't know, that's pretty tall to me, but you have to make that leap. And it's like there's no way my 5 foot ass or not even 5 foot ass, because not even with these heels I am, but
depending on what I'm wearing that day.
Right now I probably give myself like 5'1", 5'2", but I can't reach no freaking 10 foot tall leap, you know. So it's like I have to make my steps for it,
right?
So if I don't do that, then I'm just gonna see it up here and I'm just gonna like think to myself like, yeah, I can't reach that. And I think
goals without action to plan is just imagination. Órale. I would love to take credit for that, but I actually just saw a post about it. And it just popped up because that is, I mean, it's so true and it's so perfect. If you're just dreaming and you're planning your goals in your head, but you're not sitting down, writing down how you're going to get there, it really is just your imagination just going wild and how you wanting to live your life in the future, which there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's how you get your goals. You have to imagine, sometimes close your eyes and see how you want your future to look. You have to play on imagination,
right? Because
it's more often than not, it's things you don't have already. So you have to imagine how you want that life to look. But just like you said, if you don't sit down and you put down, more often than not, it's better to put paper to pen. Right. If not, do it on your phone. Because, you know, I know some people don't like to write. Do it on your notes. Do a voice memo. It doesn't matter. Do something. But make a plan on how you're going to get there. And be as specific as you can. And be organized. Because if you're just all over the place and you're like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do that, in like 5 different aspects of your life, you're not going to be able to obtain any of them. Give yourself time, like take a step back and prioritize which one is easiest to obtain, because we've said this before. You also want to be realistic. You don't want to set yourself up for failure. Right. Like, you don't want to just say, okay, I want to have $1 million by next year. Like, even though for some that may be possible, more likely it's not. Like, also be realistic, because if you're setting up goals that you just cannot obtain, you're going to be discouraged. You're going to be like, well, what's the point? If I can't make this goal, I'm not going to be able to do any goal. Right. So you have to make things that are obtainable and realistic. That way you get to check those marks off. Like you said, it's so satisfying to be like, okay, done. Right. And it's that much more satisfying with goal list than with to-do list. Right. When it's a goal list and you check that off, you're like, dang, I did that. And I thought I couldn't. Right. But it's checked off. Like, that's satisfying. It is. And motivating. Right. Like, okay, what's the next thing I can do? Right. What's the next goal I can accomplish? And then with, like, I want to tie in also with being organized. That doesn't just include with like your thoughts and your plan. It also includes with your outside physical world. So like with your house, with your room, with your, if you have an office, with your workspace, with your car, just everything around you. I feel like it's self-sabotaging to not be organized, because when you live in chaos, your life and your mind feel chaotic. Right. Whatever you have around you translates into your life. Right. So like, let's say your room is messy 24/7, then that'll translate into the rest of your life, your work life, your friendships, relationships, your, did I already say work life? Yes. Okay. But add it again for emphasis. Yes. We're going to add it again for emphasis. It's going to translate literally into the rest of your life. For sure. In one way or another. And that can look different. So like, let's say your room is messy. That can translate, let's say, in your work life. Well, now your assignments at work are disorganized, you know, or not. That doesn't necessarily mean that your office or your workspace is messy, but let's say your tasks are disorganized. Like, you have tasks all over the place that you need to get done that haven't gotten done. Or it can be in your relationship. It could be that certain conversations haven't been had, or you're not on the same page with your partner.
right? It's not being communicated,
Right.
or with your friends, whatever, like however it looks like, but it translates into the rest of your life.
Oh, for sure. And it's happened for me for sure, where my house has been very messy. You've seen it. And I do take a step back and I'm like, okay, what's going on? I don't do that every time, because there are times where it's messy just because I have not had time in the week. And we're not saying like your house needs to be spotless 24/7.
Right.
We understand life happens, but try to have it as decluttered as possible, because clutterness just means clutter of the mind.
Right.
But I have noticed sometimes when it's super messy, and it's been like that for like a week and a half, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? Because when it happens like that, I have time to clean, I have time to declutter, I just don't do it. And yes, it has part to do with my procrastinating, but it's also when I take a step back and I'm like, okay, hold on, my life is actually super chaotic. You know, like my work schedule is crazy. I feel like I haven't done enough for the, podcast. Like just all around, I feel very chaotic. Like my mind is going all over the place. I haven't taken pen to paper and like written down things I need to do. Like everything is just chaotic, and that almost parallel translates to my home. It's messy, but when my home is decluttered, clean, I feel like I have my life together. And then like they go hand in hand. Right. If my life is crazy, my house starts to look crazy. But as soon as I start cleaning my house, it's almost like
it declutters your thoughts.
Yeah,
like it organizes it for you.
It's crazy. Like it's almost like me cleaning my house cleans my thoughts.
Right. Oh my gosh, I literally did that this week on like Sunday, and like Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. I was cleaning different parts of the house because I just felt so cluttered with like everything that I had been thinking about for like the past month or so. It's just like I was so stressed about everything that, because sometimes I'll sit down and I'll like journal about it, but sometimes not even that will allow me to organize my thoughts. And so I'll usually try it either way around. So like I'll either journal about it, try to get my mental or emotional health in balance or in check. And if I have a really hard time doing that, then I'll notice that like everything else is messy, so I'll do that. Right. So once I start doing that, then I'm actually able to start journaling, or vice versa. Sometimes I'm just so tired that I don't have the physical energy to get up and start doing all that. So then I'll start journaling. Once I journal, or like I get my thoughts in order, then I'm able to get up and I can start cleaning. So I kind of have to see it, which way it works. Right. Sometimes I don't know which way it's going to work, so I have to try it one way, and if it doesn't work out, then I try the other way. Yeah. But I mean, everything's just trial and error.
For sure, yeah.
And I have noticed that with the procrastination part, sometimes I'll procrastinate because I'm trying to escape from something. So I'll go to like my usual things of like things that I'll take my time away from everything I'm trying to do. So I'll like watch TV, or I'll start eating a whole bunch of shit, even though I'm not hungry. I'll just keep eating because I'm an emotional eater. Okay, I'm a stress eater. But which I did that this week too, until I started cleaning. But anyway, that's not the point of this. But
well, isn't it?
Technically it is.
Cleaning helped your stress eating.
Right. It kind of helps to do regular mental checkups with yourself, like checking in with yourself. Like I'll literally sit down and I'll talk to myself out loud.
Ellie, are you okay?
And I'll be like, how are we doing today? Like, how are we feeling lately? And I know that this sounds so crazy because, okay, but it helps talking to yourself out loud in third person, because it allows you to visualize yourself as somebody else, right? Because if you're talking to a friend, you're less likely to criticize them over yourself. Right. You're your hardest critic. You're
nicer on your friends. You're like, it's okay, you've gone through a lot. But with you, you're like, bitch, get it together.
Yeah. Like literally what popped into my head was, the scene from The Incredibles with Edna jumps on the table and starts slapping Miss Incredible. Oh my gosh.
Elastic Girl.
I was trying to think of her name. Like, what's her name? Elastic Girl. Yeah.
That's just so funny.
That's me.
I love
Edna is me, and I'm Elastigirl too.
I am both in this scene.
I am both in this scene. That's literally how my head works. So I need to say it out loud, and I need to say it to myself in third person, because otherwise it's just gonna be Edna and Elastigirl in there. But so doing a regular mental check-in, or at least whenever I know that I'm not doing my best mentally, it helps me to organize my thoughts. And I've also noticed that whenever I start decluttering my space around me, I'm literally thinking the entire time that I'm cleaning. So like I'll have music and I'll literally be singing, but I'm singing, but in my head I'm not singing.
You're there but not there.
Yeah. So I don't know. So it's just like, while I'm literally decluttering my space, I'm also decluttering my mind at the same time, because I'm thinking about what has been bothering me.
Right. Something else that I also, because we got to tie it in to nuestra cultura. I feel like a lot of Mexican homes, obviously not all of them and not ours included, but a lot of the ones I've been in, and just I feel like it's a generalized known fact, Mexican homes tend to be very, very cluttered.
Oh,
like
for sure.
with a lot of things. Like
you just reminded me of something else, but go ahead.
Like Mexican moms, Mexican grandmas have so much because they can't get rid of anything. Like everything they have to keep. They're like, Christmas bags, keep. Any topper that ever enters this home, keep. What else? Literally everything and anything. Like, just Mexican homes in general are very
chaotic in a sense.
Yeah. And I feel like that goes hand in hand with, like, our families are very chaotic. Our lives are very chaotic, as far as, like, we're just, like, on the go, moving, this, that. There's almost, like, no time to just, like, sit down, chill, and, like, think. Especially because we're known for, like, having a cajillion kids. Again, I can't relate to none of this shit. I love how I'm like speaking on it, but it's like, can't relate. I'm an only child. It's only been ever me and my mom. My mom's not really like a cluttered person.
This is what I was gonna bring up. I had seen not too long ago on TikTok that I've been bringing up TikTok all day today, but anyways, where it was saying how kids who grew up with parents in their parents' homes that had so much shit in it, like a whole bunch of decorations everywhere, adornos and everything, tend to be minimalists, right? And I'm like, hey, I feel like that's how I was. My mom has like a whole bunch of stuff. She used to have a lot more stuff than she does now.
No, even when I was little, there was not that much stuff.
I feel like there was always much stuff, and not so much in adornos, but it was storage stuff.
Okay, I can see that, because like stuff that's out and about, like no tenía mucho. No. But I never like went into her closets or anything.
No, like the garage, bro.
Okay, yes, your garage is full of shit.
Like my mom will keep literally everything.
It's because you never know when you're gonna need it. Because I'll tell you what, I feel like I'm becoming that Mexican mom,
bro.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying. Your mom is such a minimalist. Like she has like almost nothing, and you, on the other hand, you got so much shit in here that I don't know where the fuck you put all this shit at.
All these trees are from my personal collection. And maybe it's, I wouldn't say half, but maybe half
of
my tree collection.
Oh, of your tree collection. Yeah, I was about to say, this is not half of your Christmas decorations at all. This isn't even like a fourth.
Okay, but see, that's the thing with me. I have a lot of shit, but you will never see it because I'm so good at organizing.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's not the same because they're not out and about, you know?
Yeah. But still, I don't know.
Don't put me out on the spot like that.
Hey, don't be surprised if Noah comes out minimalist, for real.
I mean, maybe because I do have a lot. I mean, like, even though I say you don't see a lot, at the same time, it is a lot. Like, I do have decorations everywhere.
For sure.
No matter where you look. But I feel like I can make it look good.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying that it looks ugly. You just got a whole bunch of shit, but you make it look nice.
I do. And then I feel like every time I moved into a slightly bigger apartment. And so I always go to the store because I'm like, it's slightly bigger. I can get more shit.
Look, I didn't realize how much shit you had until I helped you move out.
Ellie was so over, like, she was so done with me. Like, she was so over
like,
it.
how the fuck do you fit all this shit in here?
Ellie literally told me, if you ever move again, I'm not helping you.
And if you do move, just like give me a few years, because if you're trying to move every single year, girl.
Yeah, okay, so just shit. To give you
like, can I just give you money so that you can hire some movers for you?
To give just a little perspective, we moved a whole bunch of boxes in both of our cars, and that was about 4 trips. It was just, you know, me driving my car, Ellie driving her car, so the whole back seat, the whole front seat, the trunk, 4 times. And then on top of that, I rented a U-Haul the next day because I needed it for like my bed, my dining room table, all that didn't fit in our cars. That was also to the very, very last inch. And we thought we weren't going to be able to fit everything because we had to like Tetris everything. After we had already done 4 trips and 2 cars. Yeah. And I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. And now I'm in a bigger apartment. So I don't think I've bought in that much more stuff.
Bro, the comparison. I remember my mom, whenever we were moving out of our old house, my mom and Janet were like, you need to start packing up your stuff. You need to start packing up your stuff. Like, do you need help? I'm like, no, I got it. I packed up all my shit in less than a day. The day before that we were moving.
Okay, but to be fair, don't compare one room to a whole apartment. Even though when we lived in my ex's mom's house, we only lived in one room, and I still somehow filled up a whole U-Haul.
Oh my gosh. Not even me.
Okay, but you're a minimalist. I am not. Not even close. And maybe I don't know where that comes from, because my mom isn't a minimalist. Like,
that's what I'm saying. People who grew up with minimalists turned out to be.
But that's what I'm saying. My mom wasn't.
What's the opposite of a minimalist? What's the term?
A collector.
A collector? Okay, so you're a collector.
Because I wouldn't say I'm a. Was that one show?
Hoarder?
Yeah, I'm not a hoarder.
No,
I'm not. And my house does not even remotely resemble that. But see, like, my mom wasn't a minimalist.
I think your mom is a minimalist. You even said your mom is a minimalist.
I did? Well, I'm lying. That girl had over 100 pair of shoes. That ain't no minimalist. girl.
Okay, for as far as like adornos and stuff like that, your mom is a minimalist.
Adornos, yeah.
Yeah, and apart from like shoes.
She's a shoe and clothes hoarder.
Okay, but apart from that.
Well, not a hoarder. She just buys so much shit.
She's a collector. So apart from like shoes and clothes,
okay, yeah,
your mom is a minimalist.
Yeah.
Whereas on the other hand, my mom, she doesn't have a lot of shoes or clothes, but she has a lot of stuff in the house that you don't ever see.
So we're the opposite.
Yeah.
More to add to Ellie's my mom's daughter.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's my mom's almost twin.
Literally. I literally look more like your mom than you do.
So much height, hair, build, everything. Yeah. You just look so much more like my mom than I will ever look like. All right.
I think we were switched at birth.
Maybe. Probably. Well, no, because I don't look like your mom.
No, you don't look like my mom.
They just switched you.
Wait, so then who were you switched with? Your mom stole you?
Yeah.
She abducted you?
She said, this one looks cute.
Yeah.
This one had big. Let me take.
That's how you became a head ass.
Oh! Good. That's a good one. I'll give you that one. Qué mala. That was a good one, though. That was a good one. Aplausos.
Oh, thank you. Hence why I'm the funny one. Okay, going back. Sorry.
Reel it in. All right, so I think we're pretty much done with that one. Keep it organized, keep it simple, keep it clean, and have plans for your goals.
Yes.
All right, so let's move on to number 8. So number 8 is ruins progress.
Okay.
Ooh, excuse me. So I think this is a really, really important one, because the way I see it, the way I'm taking this is, or the way I interpret it is, you start, you have a goal, you have plans, you start with the plans, and then you just cut it off. And you just completely stop everything you've done.
I've noticed that I tend to do that specifically when I kind of like write a to-do list for myself for a specific goal, like writing out steps or planning out my thing to reach a specific goal. And let's say I get the first task done and it came out really good and I got what I was trying to get from it. I'm like, oh yeah, I did good. And then I just stop there because I feel good and that's it. You know, I've done that so many times.
Really?
Yeah. And then I'll take breaks and I'm like, well, now I don't feel good anymore because I haven't been doing it anymore.
Keep it going. Yeah.
Yeah. But I've done that so many times. And that's how I ruin my progress.
Really?
Like I'll get the first step done and I'll feel good about it. Just stop.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Like, all right, I'm done. Like, nah, bitch, you got like 20 more steps. Bitch, what?
I feel like it's a little bit of the opposite for me. We touched a little base on this in a previous episode, but where we said that us as Latinos, but us girl Latinas specifically, we struggle a lot with the mindset of being scared of success. And so I feel like, or I've noticed that that's where I struggle a little bit, where I'll make a goal, I make a plan, and I'm getting there and I see progress, and then for whatever reason kind of get scared because I'm like, oh my god, this is actually going where I wanted to. And of course self-sabotage and just nip it in the butt. And I'm like, girl, you know, like I was doing that kind of with social media. So I've actually been wanting to do social media since I was in middle school. Fun fact about me, I actually used to edit lyric videos way back when I was in like 6th grade. And if you guys remember, if you know, you know, when we were hella little, lyric videos were like the shit because a lot of us wanted to sing along and we didn't really know what they were saying. So we would look up videos, or even if you knew what they were saying, you would just look up the video so you could read along and memorize the song better and easier.
Right. And
I have always been obsessed with Lil Wayne. Like that is my almighty until this day. But back in 6th grade, I used to have all his CDs back when they made CDs. I mean, they still do, but you know, when they sold them at Best Buy, I used to go and I used to buy them the day they would come out. I would come home, put it into my computer. Yes, we used to be able to put CDs into our computers, and I would download the CD into the computer. So I would save the CD, I would save the music, and then I would put it into the music editor and like edit the lyrics and put the lyrics and put them on YouTube. If you guys are curious, the videos are still up. The username is cherry cake 32. Why? I don't know. It's so random. It's Cherry Cake 32 and the profile picture is Lil Wayne.
Oh my god.
And like almost, not all of them, but almost all of them are videos of Wayne lyrics. Anyway, so I've always wanted to do social media. I started with that. And then también, if you guys remember when that was popular, it was popular to make like homemade music videos to songs. I don't know if you remember that. And I used to have a friend who I would always do that with. I try to find them, but I don't know where they are. I don't know if maybe she deleted her account because they were on her account. And we would just like do like a minute long videos of us like singing along to the music, but like what we were doing went along to the lyrics. This was like before Vine, before all of that. Like it was the OG.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I've always wanted to do social media, but anytime I saw any tiny bit of like quote unquote success, I like back down. So like I stopped doing the lyrics. Don't really remember why. I stopped doing the music videos. I then moved on to, a long time after that, I then started doing skits. Not too long ago, actually. I was doing skits about my work life, basically, like my interactions I have with customers. And they started popping off quite a bit enough to where it got me fired from my job because I made the skits about Chipotle mainly. And then Chipotle executives saw it and they were like, this looks bad on our company, take him down. They're like, you're fired. And I was like, I'm not gonna take him down. They're like, okay, you're fired. And I was like, okay, fuck it, like I'll keep going, because if it keeps going the way it is, like maybe I can make some money off of it. And like I've always wanted to do social media, so this is a start. And I got fired. One of the videos went a little viral. I got contacted by, I don't know what they are. It's like a blog, I guess, that repost viral videos and they just ask like the creator about it. Like they reached out to me and they wanted to ask me about the video. I actually started I was able to monetize my videos on a platform. Like it was going exactly where I wanted it to go. And then I just completely stopped. And I was like, it was going where I wanted it to, but
right.
As soon as I saw that success, I don't know if it freaked me out subconsciously, but I don't know. I just felt scared of something and then it just stopped. So it was very, very self-sabotaging. And like I said, like we've said in our culture, that's very common because we're just not used to success and not used to getting our wants, especially when they're dreams, when they're goals. And we just kind of like freeze and back up from it. Yeah. It's like, no. Like, what am I going to do when it does go off or whatever, you know?
Right.
But yeah, so I feel like that's a very powerful one because that's a very obvious one that we self-sabotage with and get in our own way.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And it's like, why? Like, this is exactly what we wanted. Right. And then when we're getting it, it's like, okay. They completely stop. Yeah. Because like we've said, the hardest part is starting. And so once we already start and we have some progress, it's almost like stupid to stop, but we do it. So just be aware and try not to do it.
Right.
Because you already have the ball going. Because the way I see it is like, you know, whenever, not an avalanche, but like whenever you have a snowball and you roll it down a snowy hill,
it gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah. So like, it's like you already have the ball going, it's getting bigger, and then you just stop it. Then you're going to have to start again and it's going to be small. And, you know, why start with the heaviest step first? Like you already started the heaviest and the hardest part. Just keep going.
Right.
So I also feel like that ties in a lot to that negative talk and not believing in yourself, because once you start that progress and you're starting to see change, all that negativity and negative talk about yourself comes into play, and it's like, oh my gosh, like I said, it's popping off, it's getting where I want it to be, but what happens when it does?
Right.
I'm not good enough, or I can't keep it up, or whatever the negative talk may be. You not believing in yourself, and then you just stop it, you know? And that's not fair to yourself, and obviously super self-sabotaging.
Right.
So my only advice to that would be, don't be scared of success. Believe in yourself. Like, you're worthy. Why wouldn't you be? You know, you were put on this earth to do something great. Right. Don't be scared of it.
And if you are scared of it, then just be brave about it. You know, keep going. Even if you're scared, do it even when you're scared.
Right.
Just keep going.
Face your fears and look at it dead in the eyes. Say, I got this. Too intense. Calm it down, Dulce. I feel like that also connects really, really good to our next one, which is number 9. And that is unkept self-promises.
Yes.
There's one thing I do want to say about this, because it's so real, and I feel like I've thought about it a lot ever since I saw a post about it, which said, whenever you have a job and your job tells you you need to be here 9 to 5 every day, you show up 9 to 5, sometimes earlier and stay later. But when you're working on your own thing and you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to start at such and such time, and you don't do it, why are you respecting somebody else's, you know, schedule more than your own? You're not keeping that promise to yourself.
Right.
I don't know. I love that. I think it was by Gary Vee. He said it a lot better, but I just wanted to say that before we started giving our 2 cents.
No, that's perfect. Actually, that's kind of where I was going to take it to, because after you had told me about particularly that quote, I was so mind blown whenever you told me about it, because that was the first time I actually heard about it, and I was so like,
smart. I should be a life coach or something.
Or something, yeah.
And literally, my whole job is quoting Gary Vee.
Bro. But I'm literally guilty of that. Like, whenever I was going to work, like, I'd get there right on time, and I'll stay later or whatever. And, well, depending on what job. Okay. Depending on what job it was. But whenever it came to my own timing, like, let's say I told myself I'm going to go to the gym at 8. No, I'd get like there at like 10, okay, 2 hours later, or if not, I wouldn't even go. I wasn't respecting the time that I would give myself. Right. And that was like for any kind of thing. Again, how we were saying, oh, I'm gonna start doing this at 2, and then 2:05 hits. I'm like, oh no, I gotta wait at 3. Like I wasn't respecting my own word for myself, but I kept respecting everybody else's or the other company's word over myself. Right. And that in itself, I lacked the respect for myself that I was giving to others. Right. And it kind of put things into perspective, and it made me start to question why I wasn't respecting myself, why I wasn't taking myself seriously in that sense. And obviously I'm still working through that because I still show up late to things here and there. I mean, did show up like 15 minutes late today.
But we have gotten a lot better. 15 minutes is a lot better than like 2 hours.
True.
But yeah, no, we definitely have to keep ourselves accountable and be respectful of our own time.
For sure.
Like if we say 8, be there at 8.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, like everybody is a work in progress, including myself. We're not perfect.
Right.
But that self-respect in terms of valuing my promises to myself, that's still something that I need to hold up for myself. Because it's just not okay. Here's the thing, I'm not a person that normally breaks promises for when it comes to other people, but I'll break my own promises to myself.
Right.
And it's like, so in a sense, I'm valuing other people and I'm not valuing myself. I'm not saying that I should break the promises with other people. I'm just saying that I should keep the promises with myself as I do with other people. So
no, yeah, for sure. But yeah, just like you said, you got to keep your promises to yourself, because when you don't, not only are you not respecting yourself, respecting your own time, but you're letting yourself down.
Right.
Because when you sit down, you have all those goals, you make all those plans. When you make those plans, you are making, like, you don't have to outright say, I promise myself. When you sit down and put that pen to paper and write down your plan step by step, that is a way of a promise. Right. That is a way of saying, this is how I get there, and I promise myself I will have this outcome.
Right.
Just because you're not saying out here, pinky promise, it doesn't mean it's not a promise. It just looks a little different. And it's not fair to yourself that you're not believing in yourself, or that you're just simply not respecting your own time. Like we do talk a lot about on this podcast about, being an entrepreneur. When you tell yourself you're going to start doing something at a certain time, and you think, oh, well, because I'm the owner, the one in charge, whatever, I won't get fired. That doesn't make it okay, because other people are depending on you. Even if you don't have employees yet, you maybe have kids that depend on you. You have a partner that depends on you. So that dependency may look different, and, it might not be employees, but it doesn't mean you don't have people depending on you. But more importantly, did I say more like 3 times? But more importantly, you have yourself depending on yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, whenever you're making those promises and you break those promises to yourself, well, look at it this way. Whenever you make a promise to someone and you don't keep that promise, what ends up happening is they start losing trust in you, right? So whenever you make those promises with yourself and you break those promises, you're starting to lose trust in yourself, and that inevitably leads to you not believing yourself anymore. So when you start telling yourself, I'm gonna show up at 9, in the back of your mind, no, I'm not, I'm gonna show up at like 12, which I do that, and I tell myself I'm gonna show up at 9. No, I'm not, I'm gonna show up at 12.
You came up with that?
Yeah.
You didn't see that in a post?
No.
Get it, girl.
Bro, this is why I told you to show up at 1 where we're really supposed to meet up at 3.
My family does not trust my time management, and if there's a party at 3, they will lie to me and tell me it's at 1, because they know I will show up at 3.
That's what we did for you. That's what we did to you for Thanksgiving.
And I still showed up late.
You still showed up. Okay. To be fair, me and Janet kind of messed up there, because my mom was literally in the conversation, be like, tell her to show up at 12. We're like, that's pushing a little too far. I'm gonna tell her at 1. So I told you, I'm like, okay, show up at 1. And Janet texted you, she's like, show up at 2. And you were telling me, oh, well, Janet said 2. And I'm like, oh shit. And then Janet was like next to me. I'm like, Janet,
Oh my gosh.
She's not gonna show up on time now.
And I didn't. Well, okay, I didn't show up on time to the time y'all told me to show up, but as soon as I showed up, was like at the perfect time because y'all were like taking pictures.
Yeah.
Not eating yet.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Okay, but to be fair, I feel like I've gotten a lot better.
For sure.
Like before, I used to be like dead ass like 4 hours late.
Oh, for sure.
Now, no later than like 2, and that's pushing. I feel like now I'm like 30 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
If that. But I feel like there's been some times that I've been on time. Mm-hmm. I just want to give myself a little credit because
I will give you credit.
I've been trying to be so much better about that because I also feel like it's rude. Like, I know it's so common, again, in our Mexican culture to be late. Like, we're known to be late. If there's even like so many memes and videos about it when a party says they start at 8 and you actually show up and it's like people still setting up.
Yeah.
But I also feel like that's disrespectful of people's time. Mm-hmm. Like, you know,
saying if I'm to show up at this time and then they show up on time and it's just like, oh, well, yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like that's why I've been trying to do a lot better because I've started to see it in that way. Because I'm like, okay, you set time aside from your day to say that you want to meet me from 2 to 5. Let's just say a random time. And I don't show up till 4 and now we got to push it back. Well, I don't know what you got going on after 5 and now you got to push it back. Like, that's not fair to you. Or, you know, I show up late and you don't want to push your thing back, so now we can only meet for an hour.
Right.
You know, like it's just very, in my opinion, now disrespectful to other people's time. It's like I'm not valuing your time and I'm only seeing my time, and I don't care if I'm showing up 4 hours late. Like, I don't know, I think it's inconsiderate, you know? And that's how I see it now, and that has helped a lot to be on time. Because I'm like, I wouldn't like it if I told someone to show up at 2 and I'm actually there at 2 and they don't show up till like 5.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, also depending on the event. Like, if it's a sleepover, then maybe. Yeah. But even, I try not to be, you know. But yeah. That's something que nuestra gente, come on, tenemos que arreglar.
Yeah. And then also, if your mom tells you she's 20 minutes away from the house, no, you better not believe that shit. She's an hour away.
She hasn't even left the house.
She hasn't left the house. She's not even in the car yet. She's still in the shower. Okay.
And to be fair, if you're not Mexican and you have Mexican friends or people around you, like,
if they don't tell you they're on their way,
no, if you don't call them and hear that they're on their way,
then don't believe them. Don't believe them.
We're so bad with time. But see, that's the thing. Like, it's always been that way, and it's us, our parents, and of course, not everyone. There's like your dad. He's always on time.
Oh, my dad's always punctual.
But like, my mom's worse than me. Well, we used to be the same, but now because I'm more on time, she's worse than me. I mean, with certain things I understand because she lives so far, so for her it's like a whole trip. But like, even when she wasn't, you know. But yeah, it's like embedded in us to like not be on time.
Yeah, always late.
And that's how like the Mexican thing is. If you want your party to start at 8, you tell everyone
at 5.
Yes, because you know everyone will show up. Even they'll still show up at like 9.
Oh, for sure. Just expect everybody to be late. That's all.
Yeah, which is like, again, mi gente, let's fix that. That's not right to other people. Like, let's be real. It's a little disrespectful.
But ya que le hacemos for right now. Right? I mean, we can only do our part.
Yes, so. But it is what it is, right? But yeah, no. At the end of the day, keep your promises to yourself. Respect yourself and respect your time like you would a company, you know? But safe to say, let's move on.
Safe to say, let's move on.
The very last one, number 10 of ways we self-sabotage is ignoring problems.
Ooh, I'm an expert at that one.
Ooh, then lead the conversation, please.
I actually started thinking about this scene in Teen Wolf. Sorry.
Not us with a bunch of scenes.
where Scott asked,
I don't watch that show.
Okay, the main character asked my favorite character, Dylan O'Brien. Okay, his name is Styles in the show. He's like, well, what do you do whenever you have a problem? Well, he's like, I just usually ignore it until it goes away. I love his sarcasm in the show. Anyways, that's basically what I do. I try not to do it as often as I used to do it. But I used to do it so much where it's like, well, out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. You know, if I had a problem, I just would try not to think about it. I'd distract myself with a whole bunch of other things that way I wouldn't think about it.
La 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 la.
And it would work. you know, for like those few moments where I wasn't thinking about it. But soon enough, it would come right back in front of me and be like, nah, I need attention right now. It's like, well, shit, I don't know what to do about you, you know, so I'm just kind of stuck here facing this problem, not knowing what to do. So it's kind of like I'm frozen. So then that itself becomes a problem. So it's a problem on top of another problem. And it's just like, well, shit, I don't know what the fuck to do about it now. And it just becomes a whole chaotic disaster.
Oh, for sure.
So,
and how is that self-sabotaging, you may ask?
By giving yourself more problems.
Yeah, like te estás haciendo la vida más
complicada
de lo que debe de ser.
Yeah.
Wow, that was such a smooth sentence. That went dulce, Ellie, dulce. Yeah. Sorry, I had to point that out.
It just flowed.
That flew. No, it didn't flew. It flowed.
It flew.
It flewed.
It flewed. It flewed.
We're too in sync. But yeah, no, that's no good.
I know.
But I feel like this one I don't have too much expertise on, because I'd like to think I face problems pretty much head on. So I don't necessarily ignore them.
Gotcha. The ways that I've ignored them is usually by my forms of trying to escape, which has always been usually the same things.
I'm lying. Yes, I have. Sorry. When you said it that way, I thought of.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I've always had like different forms of escape. So sometimes I do it just because I actually do want to enjoy those things, but I have to always keep in mind why I'm doing those things, because a lot of the time I'm doing it to ignore a problem without noticing. So a lot of the things that I'll do is I'll start watching movies or TV. I'll start overeating because I'm an emotional eater, and I'll usually like do art, or I'll start going to the gym, like spending hours on end at the gym, like 24/7 basically. My life, it literally becomes a gym. And by all means, like technically yes, it is physically healthy, but mentally it's not whenever you're using it in that sense, right? Or it'll be art, or it'll be any kind of thing that's something that just takes my mind away from the actual problem. And whenever I notice that I'm doing those activities with the intent of distracting me, then that's when I know that I'm trying to avoid a problem.
Right.
And now that I do it, I'll do like a mental check-in with myself, and I'll start asking myself like, okay, why am I ignoring this problem? I basically give myself whole therapy sessions to myself.
Who needs a therapist when you got yourself in a mirror?
And it works perfectly in the shower. Okay, I don't know why. The shower is just my spot.
Showers are for epiphanies.
Yeah. Those two.
Facts.
Those two. But yeah, I do a lot of my therapy sessions in the shower. I don't know why. Showers just hit.
Yeah, that's where our deepest thoughts come in.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. So I'll start doing mental check-ins with myself, like asking myself why I'm doing it. Once I start asking myself and I can have those sessions or those communication with myself, I start getting to the actual root problem. And once I can tackle that problem, that main problem, what I thought was so big doesn't seem so big anymore, and I can actually tackle it down.
Right.
But before this, that I learned how to do all this, I didn't know how to do all this, and so I would just indulge into all of my escapes.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have the tools that I have now.
You weren't as self-aware.
Right. I wasn't as self-aware, and I didn't know how to manage that issue just yet. But I do now. So I'm not saying that I don't try to escape anymore, because I do. You know, I still have my problems.
Yeah.
But
and I think it's also important to note that you can do it in a healthy way. Like, escapes don't always have to be escapes. They can be distractions, because I do believe there are certain problems that can't be fixed right away. And so just
taking a step back from it.
Right. Because if you're just constantly thinking about it and stressing yourself out, isn't going to fix that problem if it can't be fixed right away. Right. Like, let's say I can't even think of anything, but let's just say something that can be fixed right away. You can just take a step back, take a hot shower, maybe watch a movie to just distract yourself, because if you overstress, that's also very, very unhealthy.
Right.
But you have to be self-aware enough to know the difference. Are you doing it to distract yourself because you cannot fix that problem right away, or you can fix that problem right away and you just don't want to, so you're escaping?
Right.
Like, they're different, but they look so identical. It takes work to know the difference.
Right. 'Cause sometimes you do need a break from the problem so that you can clear your mind. Because if your mind is not clear to solve that problem, then you're not going to be able to solve it.
Right.
So every now and then, you do need a break, from what's going on. You need a break from the problem to, I guess, declutter or clear your mind.
Right.
And whenever you come back to it, you can actually see the solution, because sometimes the solution is literally right in your face. You just can't see it because you're
like so into it.
Yeah. So you just need to clear your head, and however you choose to do that, that's your decision.
Right. No, I definitely agree. So definitely know the difference, and definitely know it's okay to distract, but just don't do it in a healthy way or to escape.
Right.
Like our friend Ellie here.
Yes. I like my escapes.
But yeah, so for me, I think where I ignore problems a lot is when it comes to mental health. So for me, I'm like, if I'm feeling super stressed, or I feel my anxiety come up really bad, or like I feel a depressive I call them stage episode, I'm like, nope, not here, not right now. And I'm like straight to the TV, and I literally like dive into my TV shows, and it's so bad to where I am almost not self-aware, like one of those out of body experiences, that some people have. I have those, but like it's almost like my consciousness leaves my body and enters the show, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Like, it's really bad, and I do that for days on end until my depression or my anxiety is like, you thought, and it comes full force, and then I'm just like, oh shit. And that's when I'm like, I need to go see my therapist. And then I kind of tell her what's going on, and then she'll
like, help me out of this, literally throw me a rope.
And of course she will. She's freaking great. But yeah, that's, I think, where I struggle with a lot, where I'm like out of sight, out of mind. If I'm not thinking of being depressed, I won't be depressed. If I'm not thinking of anxiety, I won't be, anxious. But psych, it makes it worse because I'm not acknowledging. Oh my God.
You said it right.
Acknowledging it. I don't know why that felt so wrong. And I'm not fixing it, because that's what you need to do. Just acknowledge the problem and fix it. Oh my God, cannot talk. Se me está saliendo lo mexicano de la lengua. But yeah, that's not good either, because again, te estás haciendo la vida más complicada. ¿Y para qué? There's no need. There's no reason, homegirl.
We just like to make our lives difficult. I guess that's just human nature.
A ustedes también les dice su mamá, oh my God, our parents love to tell us, ¿te gusta la
vida complicada?
Don't they say la
vida dura?
La vida mala? La mala vida.
Mala vida.
They're like, ¿te gusta la mala vida? Ahí te pones. I know. We be doing it on purpose. Manda?
Bro.
¿No entiendes? Si te acaba de pasar lo mismo, ahí te gusta estar.
¿No aprendiste? No, I didn't. That's not repeating it.
I'm sorry. But yeah, all of this list, well, to say, I feel like there's a lot more ways you can self-sabotage.
Oh, for sure.
And it looks different for everyone. All of this is not one size fits all. We're all different. Something that may work for Ellie may not work for me, vice versa. Whatever may work for you may not work for us. If it works for us, it does not work for you. However, it is good to know and kind of hear what other people do to deal with these type of things, and nitpick one from here, one from there, and to see what helps you. But yeah, there's there's a way longer list than what we just said, but I think we chose these because it's the ones we struggle with the most, and I think it's the one that we can give our perspective and our first-hand struggle with.
Right.
Y muchas gracias por haber estado aquí con nosotros en este episodio.
And make sure you follow us on all socials. That way you stay up to date on all of our latest news and announcements. And you can find us everywhere at Soul Sisters Lounge. And we'll see y'all back here in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye.